Hi YouTube, how are you doing? I'm going to read to you something that I wrote about the Russia-Georgia conflict. Everything that I claim will be backed up by evidence on the sidebar, so please check that out too. Now, there seems to be a lot of confusion as to what happened over the past week in the Russia-Georgia conflict. At first I was also very confused. The news report seemed incredibly focused on Russia's response to the conflict, but didn't want to talk about how it had all started. Since then, I have been searching on the internet for hours and hours on end to try to find out what actually happened. What I have discovered has both shocked and angered me beyond belief. Even as someone who understands that the media here in the West is nothing but a state-controlled propaganda machine, I was shocked by how they have managed to turn black into white and white into black over the past few days. What you're about to hear may be hard to believe for some, but it is a conclusion that I have come up with following the overwhelming evidence that I have seen. I'm not asking you to believe every word that I say. I am asking you, however, to believe your own eyes, not to trust your corporate media, and to do your own research. This is because the implication of not waking up to the facts as quickly as possible and not waking other people up may be so catastrophic that it could amount to World War III. Now let's look at some of these facts. At midnight last Thursday, going on to Friday, the 8th of the 8th of 2008, Georgia launched a sneak attack on South Ossetia that can only be described as genocide. They didn't target an army, they targeted civilians. They blew up hospitals, churches and people's homes, resulting in the death of thousands of civilians in South Ossetia. You may now have heard of a figure thought to believe of over 2,000 civilians killed. You may have also noticed that they don't tell you who these civilians were. Where they were killed, they were killed. This is because these facts go against the lie they are trying to sell you. You will see headlines like, Russia invades Georgia, Russia attacks Georgia, followed by this figure. The 2,000 civilians killed were almost all Russians killed in the 24 hours of genocide led by the Georgian army. Okay. So if you are to believe what the mainstream media is trying to sell you, how do you answer the following question? Why would South Ossetians flee to North Ossetia in Russia? It doesn't add up. Who in their right mind would flee to the country that is attacking them? If indeed Georgians were the victims, wouldn't it make more sense for them to flee to their capital, away from the Russians? Moreover, why isn't the mainstream media interviewing those who saw what happened firsthand? Why haven't they gone into the refugee camps in North Ossetia to interview the witnesses of this horrific attack? There is but one media outlet that is interviewing the witnesses to these events, and that is Russia Today. You may think that they can't be telling the truth because they are completely controlled by the Russian government. And yes, they may be biased, but I urge you to look at these interviews with the dozens of people seeking refuge in North Ossetia and see for yourself these witness accounts. Then ask yourself, if Russia Today is the one that is lying, why isn't the Western media also doing these interviews? The population in South Ossetia is over 90% Russian. Many will claim that Georgia was just trying to take over their land again. Yet in 2006, South Ossetia had a democratic referendum in which over 90% of the population turned up and over 99% stated that they wanted to be independent from Georgia. So, if this is true, you may be asking, why did Georgia do such a provocative act to such a powerful nation, being such a small country? Are they completely mad? Well, of course, this isn't the full story. The truth is that they didn't act alone. On the sidebar, I have shown a link to an MSNBC article titled, US Starts War Games in South Ossetia, Russia. Just after the war broke out, this article went viral over the internet, so MSNBC quickly removed it, and although the title is still visible, they have replaced it with a statement. The page you are seeking has expired and is no longer available at msnbc.com. How convenient. Luckily, however, there are still other sites where you can find this article, which I have posted a link to, including georgiantoday.com. The article states that over 1,000 US troops began war games with Georgian troops in July 2008. The operation was named Immediate Response 2008. Please type that into Google and find out how US troops have been arming and training the Georgian army since the start of this war. Of course, Israel was also involved, as Ynet News reports. Hopefully now you can see the true colours of this war, how Russia did the right thing when they went into South Ossetia to protect their civilians against this horrific attack that again can only be described as genocide, how the media is distorting the facts like nothing else before, how they are preparing us to hate Russia and possibly preparing for another world war. Can you imagine your city being blown to pieces in the middle of the night? Can you imagine hospitals and churches in your town being blown to pieces with the people in them? Imagine then the anger and despair that you would feel when seeing Saakashvili going on TV blaming Russia for this attack, saying that Russia attacked Georgia out of the blue sky, of Bush, McCain and Obama repeating these lies for their elite political game, of Fox, CNN and BBC and other mainstream media outlets in the US and the UK repeating these lies, accusing Russia of a terrible aggression and saying how dare they not obey the ceasefire when the Georgian army is still shooting at them. People, it's time to wake up to the reality. It's time to realise that you are being manipulated and brainwashed into accepting what could escalate into World War III. If you don't wake up and expose what the elite are doing and hold them accountable for the war crimes they have committed, we may wake up tomorrow in a nuclear war between Russia and China versus the West. Wake up.